Lyth Arts Centre who are interested in music and mindfulness? Can I just have a quick show of hands, because I don't know everybody in the room. Whose primary interest is mindfulness? Yeah, also there's quite a lot of people interested in the mindfulness aspect. And are any of those mindfulness practitioners not yet musicians? Yeah, quite a few, not yet musicians. Oh yeah. I like to think of this as an opportunity. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Katrina Gordon, and I grew up in Thurso, and then I went to study in London, and I became a professional orchestral bassoon player. So that's my first instrument, and I played for a number of years in various orchestras in the Central Belt. And then when my children came along, one of them's here today, about 20 years ago, I moved back north and came back here so that my children could grow up in Caithness. So I set aside the professional aspect. Obviously there's not much call for an orchestral bassoonist in the far north of Scotland. And I started to do what I could to help the local community music scene. And then in 2012, Susie, who's just introduced me, she is the chairperson of Lyth Arts Centre, but she's also my partner in crime. We together, when she moved here in 2012, we set up an organisation called caithnessmusic.com. And it's a social enterprise. Our aim is to promote health and well-being through group music making. And that was quite a bold claim. We sat for a long time thinking about the structure of our organisation and what it was we wanted to do and what gaps there were. There's already a lively music scene here. And so we came up with that as our primary aim. And then I went to look up for some research to put on our website to say, look at this, if you participate in music groups, then you'll be happier and healthier. And when I looked at the research, there really was very little research. There's a bit of research showing that, you know, if you learn a musical instrument as a child, then you might be a bit cleverer or better at maths or better at English or whatever, but it's all a bit dubious, and there's no clear research about the health benefits of group music making, which we have observed through our lifetime, so we sort of know it. You know, people come into rehearsals, all the musicians they don't know that they're coming in, and then by the time they go out, they're like this, you know, and I wanted to know what is the mystery ingredient of a community group music rehearsal that has that magic effect. So that's what got me started on thinking about researching. Just before I move on to the researching bit though, I have to tell you, we have 4 principles in our organisation. These are our 4 key principles that Susie and I adhere to. We try to adhere to them in life as well as in work. And this is what makes our music organisation a bit different from others. So I had to look at the board not to see what they are, but to see what order I put them in, because they're in no particular order. Number 1 here today is kindness. We always try to be kind to the people who are in our music groups, and we always try to be kind when we're giving music lessons, which seems like a fairly easy thing to do, until you look at number 2, honesty. The kindness-honesty interface is a very active one as a music practitioner. If we want to help people to improve their music making, then we can't just say, oh, that was lovely, because sometimes they want to know, you know, it should have been a G sharp instead of a G natural. Sometimes they want to know, oh, here's how to make a bigger sound. So there's always that gauging with each person that you meet, how much honesty they can take, and how can you put this most kindly. So music's a very active sport when it comes to the mind, and that's what makes it really interesting for me. Inclusivity is one of our other principles. We truly believe that everyone in this room and everyone in the world can be a musician if they want to be. Some people don't want to be, but if you want to be, then we can always help you to become a musician. There's music in all of us. And generosity is our final principle. We run the operation on a shoestring, and we try to be as generous as we can with our time and our expertise and our money and everything that we have to give. And in return, the world is generous to us. So that's how it works. We're very lucky that our organisation is very well supported. This is the question, because hands up if you're a musician in the room that doesn't know the answer to what is mindfulness. Yeah, lots of people are like, what is mindfulness? And do you know what, even if you think you do know the answer to what is mindfulness, it's a really tricky question. So when we set up caithnessmusic.com and we had had a look at the research, and there was no research, I started reading books, and I read a few books by John Kabat-Zinn, and what he was describing, this is John Kabat-Zinn's definition at the top. Can you all see past me? Shall I move to here? Mindfulness means paying attention in a particular way. The particular way is really important. So that is on purpose, in the present moment, and here's the tricky one for musicians, and actually for everyone, non-judgmentally. That's John Kabat-Zinn's way of describing the attitude that you have to have in order to attain a mindful state. And it's not as easy as it might first of all seem. So when I started researching and I was reading these books by John Kabat-Zinn, and he spoke about sitting quietly, and he spoke about nature, and he spoke about paying attention and noticing, and I just read it and I thought, man, that is what musicians actually do. We notice stuff all the time when we're in a rehearsal. That's what we're doing. We're noticing with our ears, we're noticing with our eyes, we're paying attention in the present moment, and we're trying to create a harmonious atmosphere with the other people in the room. So we set aside, hopefully, at the door, we leave our egos and we set aside any personal differences we have with our fellow musicians, because our aim is to create harmony in that room at that time. So I was quite excited to find out about mindfulness, and I thought, that might be the secret ingredient. So that's when I signed up to my course with the University of Aberdeen. It's a MSc in mindfulness and takes about 3 or 4 years, and I'm 2 years into that course. So although I was introduced as a researcher, I'm a novice researcher, and I'm only just learning how to research. But what I found out has been very interesting. I put up another definition of mindfulness here, which is the one that I used when I had to do some studying. Mindfulness is such a difficult thing to measure, and I was inspired by John Yates, who describes mindfulness as the optimal interaction between moments of attention and moments of awareness. Because we can to some extent, we can measure attention, and to some extent, we can measure awareness. So for me, that was like, okay, now I can start to think about the mindful nature of music making and begin to measure it, because I can notice the difference. Attention, in this context, is focusing on one thing. Awareness is knowing what's going on around here while you're focused on that one thing. And with meditators, they meditate usually focusing on the breath, but maybe focusing their attention on something in front of them, or maybe focusing their attention on the sounds in the room. And at the same time, after a number of hours of meditation, then they start to be able to open up their awareness to what else is happening in the room around them without being distracted by it, and what else is happening in their mind without being distracted by it. So I see an interesting parallel between what meditators have been doing for thousands of years and what musicians do.